Okay, today we're going to be looking at Qtractor again, and we're going to be playing with a few new features of it. New as in I haven't shown you them yet, but I decided to start with this empty program here, or empty project here. And the first little steps here are just going to be reviewing of last week, so I'm going to go through them real fast, but we're going to click here to add a track. I'll just call it Synth 1. I'm going to make it a MIDI track. Okay, I'm even going to add a second track here. I'll call it track 2. It's a MIDI track. Okay. And just like last time, I'm going to use ZYN add sub effect as my synthesizer. So I'll open that up. And to connect Qtractor to it, I'm just going to right click on the track I want and go output and connect Qtractor to ZYN add sub effect. Also, real quick, I'm going to come over here to Patchage, and I'm going to make sure I have ZYN add sub effect connected to Pulse Audio, and that's just for the video recording I'm doing so that I can hear ZYN add sub effect in the video. Otherwise, you wouldn't hear it. So that little step is just a little extra, not needed for the actual usage of the program here. Okay, so now let's create a new clip. We'll create a directory. I'm just going to really want to throw everything in where you're actually working. So actually, before I do that, goes without saving. Let's save this project. And I'm going to save the project. I'm just going to put it in my temp folder. Yeah, we'll call it Qtractor Qt2. And there we go. I'm just going to throw it in my temp folder just for the tutorial, but really you'd want to put it in a place where you're going to save this project. I'm going to click OK. And then I'm just going to say, put it in my temp folder, save. OK. So now that we have that saved, now I can create a new clip, and it automatically puts it inside that project folder. It doesn't ask me where I want to put it. And we should hear the default ZYN add sub effect synthesizer. Let's come in here, go show instrument bank, and we'll pick something different. We'll pick, doesn't really matter, multi-synth. Okay, so we'll create a little I'll just make it a little bit longer so we don't have such a short loop here. I'll just keep on adding stuff. Okay, so we got that. We go back to our track editor here. There is what we just created. Okay, and I'm just going to press copy with Control-C, and it wants me to save that MIDI file, so I'll just click save. And then at this point, I'm going to right-click, I'm going to go paste repeat, and we'll repeat it just, I don't know, 19 times, so we have 20 altogether, and I'll drop that in right there. So sounding good. Okay, this track, we're also using the same master MIDI output. So it's connected to ZYN add sub effect, but you can see it's on channel 2. So let's create a new instrument in ZYN add sub effect. Click over here, enable it. By default, the second instrument is on track 2. Let's click and choose a different instrument for it. We'll do this matrix and see how that sounds. Once again, we'll say new clip. So let's go. Oops. If you create one you don't mean to, like I just did there, we can just click on it and right click and delete, and then move it up here. Let's see. You can, after you create a note, if you need to resize it, just resize it like so. Here we go, we have that created. Okay, so we'll select this, Control C, we'll want us to save it, and we will paste in that a few times, right, like so. Now I have noticed sometimes Qtractor does this. When I pasted in those multiple ones before, at some point it might put ones off center. That just seems to be a glitch. I haven't really looked into it. I just have noticed that a few times. So let me select all of those using the select tool here. I like them all. You can also just hit shift and click to select multiple things and just make sure you line it up properly. Once again, oh, I'm still on the select tool here. Let's go back to this. Oops. This is what I want. And it is kind of a pain in the butt that it does that sometimes. I don't see it too often, but I have noticed it. I'm just going to select all these and hit delete. So that is a glitch that I have experienced before. So keep an eye out for it. You may, and like I say, I've experienced that when I do the paste repeat sometimes. So you may want to not use that and maybe just copy and paste individually, even though that takes a little bit longer. I'll look into seeing if there's a bug report posted on that. Okay, so this is pretty much kind of like what we had last time, just 2 tracks going out to ZYN sub effect. And at this point, we also added in a audio track last time, but we imported an audio track. Now let's create an empty audio track. So we're going to say new track right here, or sorry, new track. So add track, and we'll make this one an audio track, and we'll just call it track 3, but normally you'd name it something, and we'll click OK. Now, if we press play, nothing happens because there's no clip here. But what we can do is we can go to inputs, and what we can do is we can take ZYN add sub effect, which is our output for our first 2 tracks, and connect it to the input there. And at this point, what we can do is set, once we close this, set this track to record by clicking the R there and press record up here, and then when we press play, okay, so what I just did was I recorded the output to a new track. And this is something I do. It's not something required, it's just how I like to do things. Is we have Qtractor and then we have ZYN add sub effect, and you'd want to save your ZYN add sub effect settings and your Qt settings, or I'm sorry, Qtractor settings. And but if for some reason something happened to your ZYN add sub effect, you'd have to set up your instruments again. This way, at least gets you to have an audio track of your instruments. At this point, you have an actual recording. So the benefits of that is that is always going to sound the same. The benefits of the MIDI tracks is that you can change the instruments at any time you want. This is also nice if you want to import these tracks into a different program. So I just wanted to show you that, so you can record from other programs. So let's actually do that as well. So let's turn off recording on that track. Let's create a new track. So add track. We'll call this one drums. It's an audio track. Okay. And let's open up Hydrogen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Hydrogen. Now our project here, I just realized I have set to 200 beats per minute. Hydrogen seemed to automatically detect that as the jack beat. So otherwise you can change the beats per minute there. So now at this point, both programs are synced because we're using jack. So I can put in some sounds here. And so you see when I press play in hydrogen, Qtractor starts playing as well. Same thing here. I can press play here. So they stay synced. So at this point, I can right-click on here and say Inputs, and I can disconnect ZY and Add Sub Effects since I'm not using that anymore as far as an input. We're still using it as an output. Oh, and also, we might want to mute one of these tracks, so we can mute this track so we're not double playing that audio, if you understand what I'm saying. I hope that's making sense. But we can do the input here from the output of hydrogen. So we'll connect that, and now I can record on this track and press record and press play. And I just realized I don't know if I ever hooked hydrogen up to Pulse Audio, so you guys may have not been hearing the drums this entire time. Once again, this is just for the audio recording. So now that I have that hooked up, let's turn record off on that track and delete that track altogether, go back to the beginning, and once again if I press play here, you can see it plays the hydrogen. I'm sorry about that, I forgot to hook up the audio for the video recording. So there you go, you can see that play and record work in, play works in both, syncs them up properly, and once again we can turn record onto this since we have it connected up, press record here. So at this point, we can save this hydrogen project, obviously, because we want to save that in case we want to make changes to it later on. But we can close it, and even with that closed, we can now press play here. And you hear the drums as well because we actually recorded them to an audio track. Also, by default, Qtractor records everything as OGG files, which I found unusual because most audio programs record to either a WAV or a FLOC or something, some other format. So it's great that it's, in some ways, that it's using OGG instead. So it's using a fully open source format for recording audio. Now, one more thing I want to show you is fading in and out. So we can take these little blocks here at the corner of our loops, and we can go like so, and we can, even though we're playing out to MIDI, oh, let's go back to the beginning, there we go. And you can see that we easily faded those in, and you can do the same thing with the audio. So if I want this drum track to fade out, I can just drag that over like so. Now that's remembering that our audio track here, which is just a recording of these tracks to an actual audio file, is muted. So I can actually, at this point, if I wanted to, I can unmute that, and I can close ZY and Add Sub Effect. Once again, you'd want to save those instruments in case you wanted to make changes to the instruments later on, but it's nice that you can have these audio tracks going so that we don't have to worry about having those extra things hooked up at certain times. So once again, at this point, we weren't listening to the MIDI output going to ZY and Add Sub Effect. We were actually listening to the actual recording we made from ZY and Add Sub Effect. So that's a nice little feature. And I think that's all I'm going to go over today. I hope I didn't confuse you too much. I know once you start working with multiple programs, it gives you a lot more power over control on what you can do, but it also can become a little more confusing because it's just like having a bunch of hardware and having, like this, a soundboard with wires going everywhere. So hopefully I had everything hooked up right so that you guys could hear the audio properly. And I just hope that you visit filmsbychris.com. I hope that you have a great day. And I'll see you next Monday for Music Mondays. Have a great day.